Some of the most profound realities come from unexpected places. Legendary heroes rise from humble origins, life-change stories flow from heartbreak, and entire worlds of possibility are born from tragedy. And while big-budget games might garner the lion's share of attention and expectations, so often it's these smaller, experimental titles that truly push the medium forward in creative ways. Now, I know The Legend of Zelda isn't exactly an indie series, but once upon a time, the forecast of success for our green-clad Hylian was a lot less certain than it is now. And it's within those formative years that we find perhaps one of the most beloved and quietly influential titles in the entire series. Hi there, my name is Daniel, and I think The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening is pretty creative. If you're more of a recent Zelda fan, you might have wondered why the internet was freaking out when this remake was announced a couple years back. I mean, it looks cool enough, but it's no Breath of the Wild. And the original was a Gameboy game from 1993? Well, hold on, try to imagine yourself at the time when it was released. This was a time before Pokemon, so realistically, your older brother's Game Boy was mainly used for spin-offs and side games for your favorite series. For the first time, you could take some of your favorite adventures anywhere with you. They were just a bit smaller than their console counterparts. Now don't get me wrong, the Game Boy had its fair share of bangers early on. But the epic adventures, the ones that pushed gaming forward and left a lasting impression, still had to be played on your TV. Enter Link's Awakening. Coming right off the heels of 1991's A Link to the Past, this Game Boy title serves as both a spin-off and direct sequel to its Super Nintendo predecessor. But this new adventure was way more than just Zelda on the go. Where it might have lacked in technological prowess, it more than made up for with its charm, personality, and tight design. To this day, it stands as a series favorite for a lot of fans, and is sold incredibly well across its 3 releases. There's of course the original, which still holds up as a 2D masterpiece, just without a lot of the bells and whistles that would come later on, most notably color. That would be added a few years later when Link's Awakening DX was released for the Game Boy Color. This deluxe version, of course, made the game look nicer and even added a bonus dungeon to show off the vivid display. And who could forget the photo shoot side quest that used the Game Boy printer? DX was basically a beefed up port though. And for the next 2 decades, this beloved adventure was only available on handhelds. That is, until 2019, when this puppy hit store shelves. After Breath of the Wild redefined so many core Zelda concepts a couple years prior, I was expecting some kind of return to form for the next title. But honestly, I was shocked when I saw this absolutely gorgeous remake. For the first time, Link's Awakening was being fully realized on a home console, and after playing it, I can claim this as the definitive version of the game. What you might miss if you're playing it for the first time on Switch, though, is that Link's Awakening was entirely built around being a handheld experience. Taking Zelda on the go likely meant shorter play sessions, so the development team opted for a simpler approach to progression. The overworld would open up piece by piece instead of all at once, and the accordion-like structure of A Link to the Past was dropped in favor of a more linear approach. This way, players wouldn't get lost or confused as easily and could jump right into the action. But it was also the first side game in the series, meaning a lot of ideas were brought to the table that might not make it into one of the main titles. In my Super Mario Land episode, I mentioned how the developers felt more free to experiment with Mario's stages and mechanics since it was on the Game Boy. And the same is definitely true here. Whether you're stomping on Goombas, rescuing a chain chomp, or facing off against Kirby, you'll definitely be seeing some unexpected faces throughout your journey. But it's not just cameos from other Nintendo franchises that are new here. Link's Awakening also introduced new collectibles in the form of these secret seashells, and it even played around with some Mario-style temporary power-ups. And speaking of Mario, the entire reason these platforming sections are even possible is due to the addition of Rock's Feather, a new power-up that allows Link to jump. I know, crazy, right? Some of these wacky ideas would find their way into later titles, while others fell by the wayside. But the willingness to step forward into uncharted territory like this speaks to Nintendo's confidence in the series. Perhaps one of the largest steps Link's Awakening takes, however, lies in the narrative department. Over the previous 3 games, the Zelda team had steadily built Hyrule into a living, breathing world with rich lore and memorable characters. This world had become truly magical, but the story itself was nothing out of the ordinary. There's a monster threatening to take over the world, he's kidnapped a princess, and it's your job to defeat him and save everyone. And I mean, the Zelda series as a whole isn't really known for its complex storytelling. It's more the magic of experiencing these adventures that makes them special, at least to me. But in Link's Awakening, there's something personal and even heartbreaking that the developers were able to tap into with the game's story. After defeating Ganon in the previous game, Link goes on a study abroad trip to hone his skills, and on his way back, his ship is absolutely demolished during a storm. Shipwrecked and without any of his gear, Link is nursed back to health by Marin, a girl from the local village and one of the denizens of Koholint Island. You then learn from this owl friend about the great windfish, who's trapped in an eternal slumber as his nightmares terrorize Koholint. So, we're in an unfamiliar place with unfamiliar people being asked to care about defeating an unfamiliar bad guy. That's a lot for a side game to introduce. Yet Link's Awakening does this and more, because by the end of my journey, I actually ended up caring about these characters more than I ever did about these. Whether it's the clever writing, heartwarming scenes, or the tragedy of the story itself, Link's Awakening connected me with its characters in a way the Zelda series never had before. But even if the world looks different, we're still playing a Zelda game. And you know what that means. We're collecting a handful of MacGuffins from a handful of dungeons. This time, it's the 8 instruments of the Sirens, which you'll need to crack the windfish's egg and face off against the nightmare itself. And as far as the dungeons themselves go, we've got ourselves another stellar batch of lock and key labyrinths to get lost in all over again. Mark Brown actually does a great job of covering these in his Boss Keys series, so check that out if you want a more detailed breakdown of how they work. What I'm blown away by is how well these dungeons have held up nearly 3 decades later. The bar for Zelda dungeons has been set pretty high with iconic locations like Snow Peak Ruins, Ancient Cistern, and the Stone Tower Temple. But if you ask me, Link's Awakening still offers some of the most engaging and memorable dungeons in the entire series. I won't soon forget tracking down the Stalfos Knight 4 frickin' times just to get the hook shot. Or how about knocking down these pillars in Eagle's Tower to send the top floor crashing down? Oh, and then there's Turtle Rock, which is quite the labyrinth and an absolute beast to navigate. No pun intended there. But the dungeons in Link's Awakening also left their mark on the series by bringing depth to both their narratives and mechanics. If you've played a Zelda game before, then you're probably familiar with the way these labyrinths work. Explore what you can with the items you have, fight a mini-boss, get the key item to open up the rest of the dungeon, track down that boss key, and fight the big bad to grab that legendary artifact. But did you know that a lot of these elements were actually put into place here? A Link to the Past may have been the first to really nail down the Zelda formula, but its dungeons didn't really have a consistent structure for how you progressed. Puzzles, mini-bosses, and even the big key played very different roles from dungeon to dungeon, and some didn't even require you to use its key item at all. And there's certainly an argument for a less predictable approach like this, and I think the variety in A Link to the Past is one of the many reasons it's held up so well. But I also think there's immense value in the intentionality of these dungeons. Here, every dungeon has the exact same overarching structure, which makes extensive use of 1 or 2 mechanics to test your knowledge and skills with the dungeon's item. The Bottle Grotto is a great example of this. Everywhere, you'll see these massive pots that Link can't pick up yet. And actually, this is the way developers cleverly block off certain parts of the dungeon. That is, until you get the Power Bracelet, which allows you to lift those heavy pots and progress through the rest of the dungeon. Then the boss provides the ultimate test, as you're required to pick him up and throw him at the wall to defeat him. Oh, and if that wasn't enough, the entire freaking dungeon is shaped like a bottle as well. But that's not to say that every dungeon feels the same. Far from it. They may share a similar structure, but the dev team, which is largely the same team from A Link to the Past, has again done a great job at making each temple feel wholly unique from the others. And by leaning heavily into a linear story structure this time, they were able to steadily increase the difficulty and complexity of each dungeon as you progress. And this linearity actually allows the dungeons to interface with the game's narrative in some interesting ways. The dungeons in A Link to the Past existed almost as a separate entity from the story itself. I mean, yes, they were the primary means of progressing through the story. But as far as the content of these dungeons is concerned, you could pretty much swap these around in any order you like, and the game's narrative would be just fine. But here, each dungeon feels like it occupies a real place in the story of Koholint. And this is due in large part to the bosses you'll encounter. Each manifestation of the Windfish's nightmare has these little moments of dialogue that allow you to see into their mind a little. And as you get closer to solving the mystery of the island, you start to really feel their desperation to stop Link from wiping them from existence. These little vignettes are typically just a tiny part at the end of an otherwise story-free video game level. But it's all the little pieces, the episodes between dungeons, the unique designs of each temple, as well as these boss fights, that come together to make each labyrinth feel like you're solving another piece in the larger puzzle of Koholint Island. Link's Awakening holds a special place in my heart, and I know I'm not alone in that. And after playing it several times on the 3DS and again now on the Switch, I still get emotional when I finish this journey. And it's not just that I'm responsible for the fates of an entire island of people, it's the fact that I got to know these people during my adventure. I've gotten to spend a lot of time helping the various residents of Koholint and learning about their lives. I've experienced the culture of the land through its dungeons, and I've grown considerably by conquering the trials within. This quest has truly become my own. Link's Awakening didn't just succeed in bringing classic Zelda on the go. It was a major step forward in the series' design standards, both from a narrative and gameplay perspective. It really is hard to imagine a reality in which Nintendo went straight from A Link to the Past to Ocarina of Time. And it's hard to imagine the series as a whole today without the influence of this game. Massive impact can come from the most unexpected places. And I love how this masterpiece of a Game Boy game reminds me of that. I love how it exemplifies the value of quality ideas more than simply powerful hardware. And I love how it encourages me to reflect on the times when my life has been touched by seemingly insignificant things. A simple text or act of service that reminded me of my value or encouraged me to press on through hard times. It doesn't have to be big to be impactful. So if you would, join me in showing a simple act of love and kindness to someone in your life today. This episode is dedicated to my good friend Marcos. You show me God's love on a regular basis simply by listening well and being present with me. No moment is too small in your eyes to have an impact on someone, and I will never forget the many moments you have brought me encouragement simply by just showing me that you care. Love you, bro. And for the rest of you friends, I want you to know that you're loved, you're valuable, and you are creative. God bless y'all. Have a great day.